Welcome to the Employment Law Channel. Even before Sallie Krawcheck's ouster from a high-ranking job at Bank of America, things weren't looking all that good for women climbing the ranks on Wall Street. The financial industry, long known for its boys' club environment, has only a small fraction of women as top executives. And that small cadre has been thinning out in recent years, with the most recent example Krawcheck's departure as B of A's President of Global Wealth Management. My guest is Kathleen Peratis. She is partner at Outten Golden. Her area of expertise lies in employment discrimination. Kathleen, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, there's no indication that Krawcheck lost her job because of discrimination. B of A said she was leaving as part of a recent cost-cutting program at the company, which has been struggling, and she has not explained her departure. Now, women represent about half of the nation's white-collar workers, but they represent just 14.4% of executive officers at Fortune 500 companies. And these recent shakeups, not only at B of A, but also Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, and Yahoo, what does all that mean for women in the top tier at Wall Street?
Well, I think that there's a story about what is the real reason that Sallie Krawcheck departed, but the bigger story is why the numbers of women on Wall Street in general, and in high-ranking jobs in particular, are so paltry. The record of women on Wall Street is very poor. The numbers are bad. As you said, there's a kind of a boys' club atmosphere, what has been called, even worse, a boom-boom room. And the legacy of that very gender-biased atmosphere stays with us. We don't know exactly what happened with Sallie Krawcheck, but there are a lot of subjective selection criteria in high-level jobs at Wall Street, and that tends to mean that the decision makers choose people who look like themselves.
The legal issues aside, do you think the recession is entirely to blame here, or are there just other factors involved?
Well, as for Sallie Krawcheck, I don't think I know what other factors might have been involved. Anything that I guessed would just be a guess. It's a generally inhospitable environment in general, but Sallie Krawcheck is only a symbol of the problem. The real problem goes much deeper. My firm has a number of claims in various stages on behalf of women at all levels of Wall Street and other financial services organizations. And there does tend to be a very strong gender bias, even though every company will tell you that they don't engage in gender discrimination, and they have programs in place to fight against it, but their programs tend to be not very effective.
The way things have been going on Wall Street with the investment banks in mind particularly, one might expect the consumer, the layman, to appreciate a female in charge, because don't they seem to be more honest?
Well, people have made that argument. I think that investors tend to want someone who performs well for them, and the numbers for women do tend to be good. But women often don't get the shot at the large accounts that men get for a lot of the same very subjective and biased reasons. The large accounts are distributed by men to men. When somebody leaves and the accounts are redistributed, the women tend to not get the same size accounts as men get. And even if women are a large proportion of an entry-level group of, say, financial advisors, they get thinned out over time, largely because they aren't given the opportunities that men are given.
And even in the good times, and it looked like women had begun to make strides in this area, what do you think is really at the root of this latest attrition?
Well, you know, I think it depends upon how long a timeline you want to look at. I've been practicing discrimination law and women's rights law for a very long time, and I read things that are written today that are negative about having only 15% women in top jobs in Wall Street or financial services firms. That's a very bad number, but it has come up from 2%. And half of the white-collar jobs on Wall Street are women. That's come up from a much lower number. So although the numbers are not acceptable, and although I'm a very strong believer, and my firm is too, because this is the work that we do and that we believe in, I believe that there is a very pronounced gender bias on Wall Street. Things are definitely getting better, and I think they'll keep getting better because women keep making claims Firms like ours keep representing them, and we keep having successful results. And of course, the whole atmosphere changes.
Well, let's talk about, finally, in closing, the legal issues related to these kinds of situations. How hard is discrimination to prove these days?
Well, for a very high-level employee, it tends to be difficult to make a claim and make it stick as a legal matter, because the women tend to be in a unique circumstance. But when the decision-making is subjective, and when you can see by the numbers that women tend to be disadvantaged by the application of those subjective factors, women at all levels can make a claim if there's actually a claim to be made. We are very good at knowing a good claim from a claim that's not good, and even high-level women, and certainly women at lower levels than that, if they have the evidence, and we are very good at finding it, they're in a position to make a claim. I must say, though, that the higher level the woman is, the less likely it is she'll actually make a claim. Generally, she makes a deal rather than a claim, and that's also a good outcome.
And I guess it's also difficult, too, with a large class action, for example, using the recent Walmart case as an example. That case was ultimately dismissed. Can you talk about that briefly?
Well, there is developing in courts, and Walmart is Exhibit 1, of a strong bias against class actions by courts, especially in discrimination cases. It doesn't mean that class actions are ruled out. It means that the very large class actions present legal challenges right at the front door. But smaller class actions and individual cases are not affected, and there may be a legislative fix for what the courts have done with regard to large class actions. But the door is by no means closed to people with good claims, and people should not think that that door is closed, because it's not. It's open.
Kathleen, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
My guest has been Kathleen Peratis. She is a partner with the law firm of Outten Golden. And you're watching the Employment Law Channel.